Hi there, good morning. My name is Gerard Green. I'm a pelvic health physiotherapist from Birmingham in the UK. And it is Monday the 19th of April. In the UK here, all our children have gone back to school. We've had some good weather for a change, and we look like things are getting better COVID-wise. So I think the mood of the country is a little bit lifted. And it gives me great pleasure to speak to someone who's really inspired me and continues to inspire me, and that's Madia Rashid, who is a pelvic health physiotherapist and much more, based down in London. So Madia, thanks for giving up some time, because I know you've got a busy clinic ahead, and just tell us a bit about you.
Thank you so much for having me. So yes, I'm a women's health physio based in London. I'm a mum of 3, and I run my own independent business, working in women's health. So yeah, that's a brief summary of me, really. And most recently, I've started doing business coaching and mentoring to help other females who are physios or in the health profession to set up their own businesses around their family life.
And I think what's also of interest to me in particular is that you trained at Coventry.
That's
so you're
right.
one of our inspiring graduates. And so how did you, lots of people ask, well, how do I get into women's health or pregnancy postnatal pelvic health? So how did you move into women's health? Because it's not easy.
Yeah. I think the biggest change for me was I was pregnant, and I just felt there was just nothing around me in terms of accessing resources. I always used to do Pilates. As soon as I was pregnant, I just felt like there was nothing that I can attend, which was kind of antenatal based. It was very much sit on the side, you can't do that exercise, you can't do that exercise. And I just felt frustrated because I wanted to stay active. It was my first pregnancy. I thought, oh, maybe we're not supposed to exercise. And I thought, well, that doesn't sit well with me and my physiologic. And so I looked more into it, really. And then I started doing some courses around women's health. I did the POGP, joined their interest group, so the specialist interest group for CSP members, and kind of got into it from that aspect, really. I just realized that my peers, I was going to all these play groups, and it was all very much about babies. There was nothing about the mum. So when I finished my mat leave and went back to work, so I worked in cardiorespiratory. That was my specialty.
Right.
Yeah, for many years in the NHS. I was back, and I was doing a lot of educational talk around chronic respiratory problems, and one of the kind of aspects were coming up was sex and breathlessness, and nobody wanted to talk about it. And I just found it really interesting how it was so linked with the pelvic floor. And I was like, it just was a turning point for me, that like how everything is so interlinked. And then when I went off on my second pregnancy, the demand for my private classes. So when I initially went back, I was starting to do evening classes for pregnancy Pilates in my area. So when I went back after my second, the demand had got so much that I decided to leave my job in the NHS and carry on full-time, or increase my hours in my private work. And that's where I invested more of my time in terms of doing more specialist POGP courses, mainly around the kind of more MSK side of things. So the kind of low back pain, the pelvic girdle pains, diastasis kind of rehab, a lot more in the Pilates area as well, and in massage in terms of soft tissue, myofascial side of things, and kind of encompassing that whole, and just doing a lot of health promotion education in my area, in birth centres, around labour, working with midwives. So that kind of grew. And then just before I had my third child, I really got interested in more in terms of the internal pelvic floor side of things. I kind of felt ready. I felt experienced from a personal sense as well. And I felt I was ready at that stage to explore that further. And that's when I did more training in terms of internal examinations, and I increased that, year on year, as I have some done recently your courses as well over lockdown. It's been great to kind of build my kind of experience in that sense.
So that's I think that's will be really interesting for people listening who wonder, how do I move maybe from a one specialty into something like pelvic health? So thank you for that. So as you've moved from doing a lot of maybe musculoskeletal related pelvic health. Has your caseload changed dramatically over the last few years?
Yeah, definitely. It's evolving as I evolve in terms of my skill and my interest. And I think that's what you've got to follow. I think it's so easy at the beginning to feel like you've got to do every course under the sun that has anything related to do women's health or pelvic floor in the title. But actually, I think it comes with experience. It comes with who you want to work with. At the beginning, I was like, no way do I want to do internal examinations. I had no interest whatsoever. And then I was finding that as I was coming to a point in my treatments where I felt limited, that I felt like could do more here internally, or and I was just referring them on to other women's health physios who were in the area that were doing more internal work in clinics, and then I started getting a few of them back going, I've known you for so long. I've built this relationship with you. I'm just not getting on with the other physio. It's a big step. It's a very personal step to have that much involvement. And then I'd had kids. I kind of, was quite used to people looking down below, and I thought, now's the time. Now is where I want to kind of carry on with my ladies, and really fully feel like I'm seeing them in a holistic approach to treating their issues. So yes, caseload has definitely evolved.
And I think you mentioned earlier that you do some work in the birth centers, you speak to midwives, you go to parenting groups. So you're very good at networking, and you're very good at promoting what you do. And I think that's a really good example to other people, because I think sometimes as physios, people are a little bit reluctant to put themselves out there. So I think anyone who wants to get any insight into how you maybe promote pelvic health or promote physiotherapy, I would really recommend having a look at Madia's stuff online. It's really powerful. Now, what I'm really interested in is so you do lots in pelvic health. What do you do in coaching? Because I'm fascinated in this.
So I suppose over the years, I've kind of, I've developed, my clinics are full. I do a lot of work with brands as well. So I think that's really important in terms of awareness of physio in itself as a profession, physio in pelvic health, and just general women's well-being. So I've kind of, started doing a lot of work with brands in order to have a face that is going to fit with relating to people that are almost my own target group, my own peers, really. And I think the coaching and mentoring side came in because I just felt like I had 3 kids. I was out the NHS, and it was like, there's other people who so want that. They want that flexibility of working when they want. I do the school pickup, do the school drop off. I have all the school holidays off. I work term time. I still have my salary, and I feel like I've accomplished what I wanted to. And after getting inundated on social media of people wanting support to be able to achieve what they see I've achieved on social media, I was like, right, well, I need to, take this further. I want to take this further because I love helping people. But there's having that formal kind of process. So that's where I started doing my coaching certificate, in order to give me that kind of more theory side, because there's an element of coaching and mentoring. Like, it's quite easy to help someone, but actually you want the coaching element of them exploring what they want. Do they want a 5k salary, or do they just want to be able to do the school pickup? Because I feel like almost even in that industry, our role models are generally men, corporate clinics. Physio is very dominant female. Again, it's like you have to have lots of clinics, which is fine, if that's your goal, but that was never my goal. My goal was I wanted to be comfortable, and I'm, or more than comfortable, and, be helping the people in my community, both residentially and both from an ethnic minority, as well as having my family life. I didn't feel that it was good enough to be like, well, now I've got kids, I've got to not do anything, or I can only work part-time, or I didn't like those restrictions. So I decided to design something that worked for me, and that's where it all kind of stemmed from, really. And now it's been great. I've been helping other females set up their businesses, give them the kind of social skills, the business skills, because I think that's something as physios we do lack, both from a business professional point of view, but also sometimes from a health education point of view. And I think that was one of the biggest things that got me into physio, was health promotion. I think it's fine having knowledge, but if we're not sharing it with people, it's just a bit of a disservice, really.
And I think what I feel is really good is that you are doing coaching, but you are doing coaching from this perspective of actually, you work clinically. You've done that really hard work, and I'm sure continue to do that hard work to build a sustainable business. So I think it's a bit like, you talk the talk, but you walk that difficult walk. Like, so
Yeah.
that's
and
good.
Where the mentoring side comes in, because that mentoring is, you've done that process yourself, and you're kind of almost being that kind of role model, that kind of, helping that process, really. And I think it's a big thing, kind of making that transition from the NHS, or doing both. And I think it's like 60% of small businesses fail in the first year, and it's because we just try to do too much or just get overwhelmed. And it's
exactly
it's not easy. It's not easy at all.
And you're gonna I also work in Coventry University, and we have a new entrepreneurship module for our third years next September. And Maddie's going to come and speak on on part of that. And as a Coventry graduate, so our third years will soon be finishing up. So what one message do you have for them?
I suppose for me, when I finished Coventry, it was the year kind of where the previous graduates were really struggling for jobs, and it was a big thing for us finishing, thinking all these graduates haven't got jobs yet. So I'm not sure exactly what the situation now is, but with
really healthy.
Okay. Oh, that's really great. So you've got lots of opportunities. So biggest one for me was to kind of get as much experience as you can. So if you can get that rotational job or different settings, from a community setting, acute setting, like one of the first jobs I offered was actually with a car firm working in occupational health, which was completely out of the box at the time. It was not really heard of. You just did rotations, really. So I think it's getting all that experience, because it truly is, it makes you, having all the different specialities underneath your belt really gives you that holistic approach. Doesn't matter which area you specialize in after, and don't rush to specialize, I would say, as well. Really explore.
Agreed.
Because there's so much interlink. Like, I was always very much cardiorespiratory, even from uni. That was my highest place.
The cardiorespiratory team would be glad to hear that. They would be glad to hear that. Lots of them are still teaching away.
So you have that interest, you follow it through, you can then take it to more of a kind of senior, where you do more rotations within that. But like myself, sometimes you make a connection, maybe it's a life change, maybe it's a sport change, you're interested in something, and you do evolve. So you don't have to feel like you've got to know what you're doing straight away, and it's never wasted. Like, I see someone, and there's so many different aspects of different specialities that I've done that is going to bring in to give you that amazing session that you do with them. It's not just going to be that one module or that one, placement. So really just explore, even if you just do a couple of weeks in different areas, like different settings, community, hospices, the whole lot. It's not going to be wasted.
Definitely. Now, it's safe to say that we share a passion for women's health, and we share a passion for pelvic health, and a passion for physiotherapy. Now, in the world of women's health, particularly around pregnancy and postnatal, a lot of the imagery I feel, really neglects women who are pregnant or postnatal from Black, Asian, minority ethnic background, and particularly relevant for us in the clinic, because we're based in Birmingham. We serve a multi-ethnic, multicultural community, and we have physios from varying backgrounds in the clinic. But when you try and find images of, say, Muslim women or Sikh or Hindu women, it's really difficult. And that was highlighted to me again, because at the weekend I did some work with one of my close friends in Turkey, and it's a struggle to find those images. What can we do to try and, even in our small way, move that forward?
Yeah, it's a big problem, really. And I think it does stop people coming forward for physio, and
that's a big problem.
Yeah, it's a very, very big problem. And I find that I do little groups for churchgoers. I do a group for Muslim women from my local mosque. So I do those little target groups within their own communities, because I think people like to be within their own surrounding and with people they can relate to. And in terms of like images and things, I don't know, is people even being asked, like, even in my cohort at Coventry, like there was probably like maybe 4, max 5 in 130 people that were of a black, ethnic minority kind of background. So that that was hard. Those days were hard. I know it's increased so much now when I look back.
It has increased, but probably not dramatically.
Yeah. And for somewhere like in the Midlands, like it just doesn't, it's not proportional really. So going back in terms of like the images and stuff, I think there's a bit more of a nurturing and trust element that's required as well. And actually being in those communities and getting them kind of engaged and showing that, when people are having home births and they are having pregnancies, positive pregnancies, that they're getting the opportunity to showcase that as well. I do feel like it's, there's a lot around social media at the moment around this, but are people being asked, I think would be my first thing. And if they are, if there are certain barriers, what's being done to kind of break them down? Like, say for myself as a Muslim woman, like, no, I wouldn't do a bump picture maybe with just a drapey cloth on, which is maybe a typical photo shoot now. Maybe there's ways of doing that in a more modest way that then that image can be used. So it's both protecting their kind of modesty and privacy and their values, but also it relates to someone that is of a similar kind, to be able, like, okay, they've had a home birth and they're talking about it, and it's okay to have that positive experience, or maybe they have trauma and they want to talk about that experience. So I think it's kind of how it's tackled, who's tackling it, the understanding, the sensitivity, the privacy, the trust. I think it's all those aspects. And I think for myself particularly, I try as much as I can to get that across, even when I'm taking pictures and seeing clients to use on social media, because I think it's important, because a large portion of my clients are white. And then there is a section, that aren't. And it's in using that kind of minority still in my total amount to kind of bring that awareness through, that, everybody can attend. You're not going to go to a class and it's not just going to be all white people. Nothing wrong with all white people, but you're going to find a diversity of people. And I think I'm quite fortunate where I live in South London. We are a multicultural part, like we are quite integrated compared to other cities. And I think, and it's great, when we have bad stuff in the press, it is great to see how the communities do come together here. So I think showing that reflected in the social media, in the groups, in the dynamics. So like when I run my group for Asian, all my classes are women only, but when I run my class for Asian women, it's a kind of like, okay, no caretaker's going to be here 5 minutes before the class. You can undo your hijabs, you can wear what you want, you've got that private safe space. You're kind of thinking what it is, the barriers that are going to get there. Like my mum and baby class, even it's like, well, mums can't exercise because they got a small kid, right? Well, we're going to get babies involved. We're going to get the babies there present with you, so you can prioritize yourself. I even have a nanny that used to, was pre-COVID, that's there to kind of play with the kids right in front of them. They can concentrate. So it's what, being in that position, I knew what my barriers were. I first time I just felt uncomfortable going out to breastfeed and go to the cafe. Like I just like, how do you do this out in public?
Those practicalities as well.
Yeah, it is the practicalities of it.
Now, I would like to speak to you much more about this, and also about how we encourage more Black, Asian, minority ethnic physios into pelvic health.
Yeah,
but I think we might need to do that in another talk, because I am very mindful that you've got patients in 8 minutes time, and I'm a stickler for time as well. If a patient's in it on the hour, they're in the hour. So I'm this is a really important topic, and I'm really passionate about it. We will pick this up again. Now, who inspires you?
My mum.
Your mum.
Totally, my mum. Yeah, definitely. She's had the family life. She was very crafty, very creative, and had that as part of her business. Came to this country, was like one of the first women in the kind of community to start driving in the late 60s. It was just
fascinating.
Really, like when
you're very busy. So you've got 3 kids, and you've you've got your clinic, and you've got your coaching, and you do your own personal development. So what do you do to relax?
Well, I do a lot of community work, which I find quite relaxing as well. So I run a residential group in the area. Again, it was a way of getting people in the area to access services, be it finding a plumber or finding physio or finding Pilates, because I think it's hard to get awareness out of what's actually available, especially in COVID times now. So I have a lot of community work that I do in that aspect for all the residents in my area. I'm very keen in sewing. I think that definitely comes from my mum. So I like sewing clothes for my kids and myself in summer. I find that really therapeutic, especially in 2 of my pregnancies. I suffered quite severely from pre and postnatal depression, and I found it was a great avenue for me to really find myself again, really, and have something for me away from the kids. So that was really something I've kind of kept going. And then lastly, running. I love running. Since I moved to Cov and was running to uni and back to the halls and stuff, I've kind of generally tried to keep that up. And more recently, after having my third, I do probably about 10k each week, kind of stagger over the thing, just to get some fresh air. Gives me thinking time, definitely helps with mental well-being, and just makes me really productive and on the ball when I need to be, but switch off when I need to be. So yeah, they're probably my kind of go-to, really.
Kind of last question. So apart from coming and doing some teaching for us in Coventry and going back into clinic in the next few minutes, so what's next for you? What's the next big thing for you that you're able to tell, that you're comfortable telling us?
Well, I am actually going to be working with another university as well, just doing more work around encouraging graduates to have more variety of skills in the kind of business manner. And
brilliant, amazing, and much needed.
Yeah.
Much needed.
Yeah, exactly. I'm doing some big projects with some brands as well, some brands that I've personally used, which I really love. So from period pants to, clothing companies. So it's really exciting in that sense to be able to do these collaborations as well, and get that health promotion to a bigger picture than just the kind of community that I work in. I think I've got I'm 35, so I've got about 10 years of kind of doing what I'm doing now, and then I'll probably start winding down, doing a bit of retiring around 45, maybe a little
You'll never wind down.
Gotta save the hands.
That's true. Now I feel truly energized from speaking to you. I do. I feel truly, and I feel honored to have spoken to you. And it just gives me a thirst for doing another one of these with you around some of those other topics. And I want to say a really huge thank you, because I know when I asked you to do this, it took a while to pin down, and you were very patient. And also, I know that you have a lot in your schedule and diary, so I appreciate you taking the time to do this, because I know you've had to fit it in between other commitments. And I know people who listen to it, whether there are students or graduates in Coventry, whether they're women's health physios, whether they're physios who want to get into women's health, whether they're people out there struggling with the either personal development or the business side, they'll think, well, who can I trust? And I think it's safe to say we can trust you to help them. And also for people who are trying to reach those communities where they're thinking like, how do I reach those communities where they may not feel that either pregnancy, postnatal pelvic health is as open to them. And also for any physio who wants to get into women's health, it's an inspiring story. But I think particularly the physios from an ethnic minority. And I feel truly uplifted from that half an hour. Thank you very, very, very much.
It's a great pleasure, and I really appreciate you talking to me. And I look up to you as one of my lecturers from when you first started in Coventry. So it's great to kind of go around that full circle again. And
yeah, it's true. It's true. Right, I will let you go because I'm mindful now. It's just 2 minutes past 10. You've got a busy day ahead of you, as do I. And Madia, really big thanks. And I just turn off the recording now, and you stay there for a second.